What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the opening of God of War Ragnarok. Talk about my predictions of where the game could actually start. This is the beginning of a series of predictions videos I'm going to be doing on the game. I want to talk about several of the characters and whether they will die or how they'll die, and basically just how I think the story is going to play out. And in order to do that, we kind of have to start at the beginning. Now, to me, honestly, this is one of the harder things to actually predict in the game. You come up with a name of like Freya, will she die or not? I mean, you can make a strong argument maybe either way, but the opening of this game is kind of tough because I do think there's two main events, and I will call them actual events, that need to take place in the early parts of the game, maybe even three. The first is your mini fight. I don't know if you should necessarily call it a full-on fight. We'll see with Freya, right? When she jumps on you and she attacks and then you have the shield and you block it. I don't, again, know if that'll be the only time you ever battle her. I doubt you would kill her right there, but you have that moment. And to me, that I would think happens earlier in the game. That's one. Thor, the first fight, and I will call it first fight because I do think you'll also fight him at least more than once at the end of the story trailer. That probably takes place very, very early in the game. And then I guess the third one would probably be Ragnarok starting, like the actual, sending it off and starting it. That would probably be the last of those three, I would imagine, to actually happen. So the framing of God of War 2018 and then going into Ragnarok makes it seem like Thor is going to be the opening. Another couple things that we know kind of have to happen is your home most likely is destroyed. Your home base that you're probably going to walk into quite often in Ragnarok is not that home, right? But we also know Odin comes to that home. We know that Thor most likely, I know, Atreus says it could be like a vision. Maybe it was just a dream. Thor probably comes and probably is the thing that destroys it. So you have a couple different elements that happen around that house. That needs to be, I'd imagine, early on in the game. I know a lot of people have come up with a theory that when you're battling Thor, like on the lake, maybe that's when Odin shows up for Atreus. The tough thing there, right, is like Atreus doesn't display any signs of being like worried or like nothing happened. If Thor busts down from the sky or whatever, standing outside the door, and then him and Kratos get into a heated fight, I don't think Atreus is going to go back inside, drink some tea, and then Odin knocks on the door and he just kind of opens it casually. But it does seem like Kratos is not back yet from wherever he is. So that's a real tough one too. Those are all elements, even Odin showing up to the house, and I do believe that, to talk to Atreus, that will not involve Kratos, but that also needs to happen early on. I mean, maybe it's possible that he does that in the very beginning of the game, and then Thor comes afterwards. Maybe they're not totally, like, in sync, because an in sync thing would be like, well, I'm going to get to Atreus and get him kind of on our side. Thor, you don't blow their house down, right? Like, maybe give it a while. So maybe that could be the case. And one final thing to note, too, right? Based off both these trailers, one of the I guess, key indicators you can look at and try to place based off timing is where Mimir is at any given moment, and also if you have the blades on your back or not, okay? That's a bit, or I guess if they're not on his back, if they're not also in his hand. And what I mean by all that is if you look at it, it does seem like when Atreus is talking about, secrets that these people carry, and, Kratos is saying, like, I've been following you even though I don't believe in any of this stuff. Mimir does seem to be on his back, and it does seem like when Freya attacks, that's all okay. But when you look at the Thor fight, Mimir is not there. Now, Mimir also isn't there in a couple other scenes as well, so again, the timing is kind of off. The Thor fight, obviously, though, sticks out the most. I think I saw a Captain Kuba video in which he talked about the Bifrost. That fight with Thor, it seems like you have the old one, whereas later on in the game, you clearly have like a new mechanism that can use the Bifrost. So most likely that's going to be, if Thor doesn't destroy it, at least it signifies, okay, well, you have an old mechanism at one point of the game, and then you have a new one later on in the game. So that does distinguish Thor's fight is earlier. That's not something that's going to happen much later in the game. But again, when you're fighting Thor, you do not have Mimir attached to you, and you also don't have the blades on your back, and he's not holding the blade, right? I guess that's the extra thing. Just because it's not on his back, he could be wielding them, but they're not in his hands either because he's using the axe. So that, to me, I don't know, like, does that indicate he's kind of caught off guard? Because if you attack the home, I guess even if you do attack the home and they kind of come out to say hello, maybe he forgets to grab the blades. He has to go back to the house for that. So there are ways of making it all work. I lean towards Freya being the opening, but I still think, like, it's possible for Thor. Again, like, there's misdirection, most likely. Ending 2018 on Thor does not mean you have to start there, and even a variation, right? Because it's maybe not that exact thing, but it doesn't mean you have to start there. It would probably make more sense for them to just be kind of out doing random things. And I think in the first trailer they talked about how Atreus, like, they're aware of the environment changing, they're aware of the cold, right? And that this is like the lead up to Ragnarok. So I probably do believe they understand, things are changing, things are not going so well, and they know what comes next, and that's how it starts. Maybe with them just kind of on the road hunting or, doing whatever, and we do see that, right, in the first trailer. So it's possible that's where it starts, and then they have to retreat back home. Maybe after Freya attacks them, you defend, you fend off her. You don't kill her, but you fend her off. You go back home, and then Odin and Thor, in whichever order they may appear, those things happen. One final thing I do want to say, in terms of, like, magnitude, I'm going to be interested, right? Because you look at 2018, and 2018, like, I guess officially, the first couple minutes are very, very slow. And then Baldur, though, does, make it pretty exciting right off the bat, but not literally at the start, not literally at the 0-second mark. Whereas if you go to God of War 3, which for Ragnarok, I'm kind of hoping they do a blend. It's like the size and scale of God of War 3, or it's got those kind of stakes mixed with the more, grounded, emotional kind of tones that God of War 2018 did. So if they're going to do that, you have to start off big. And I do think a fight with Freya, or her attacking you, would serve kind of an emotional thing, right? You kind of pick up where you left off with the story and her emotional level versus you. And then if you want to get big, right, with your huge, big scale kind of fight, that's where most likely, like, a Thor thing would come into play, where he attacks and you fight. And those two things could very well happen within the first hour or so. You think of God of War 3, you fight Poseidon in the first 20 or so minutes, but even the very opening of the game, you're climbing up Mount Olympus on Gaia. It does start very big, and maybe fighting Freya is the way that you start kind of big in this game. So that's kind of where I'm landing. I feel like it could be the Freya thing. It makes more sense to me than Thor, just based off of having Mimir attached to you, and when he has him attached, that's kind of the main indicator to me. Although, we're just seeing fragments of these cutscenes. We don't see the full thing, and we don't see the in-between. So we don't really know when he puts Mimir down, picks the blades up, puts them down. We don't know too much of that. But let me know what you guys think, how you think the game is actually going to start. Again, there'll be plenty more videos talking about kind of each character, each detail, big detail that I want to predict. So thank you for watching. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.